Peyote, known scientifically as Lophophora williamsii, is a small, unassuming cactus. It grows low to the ground, often appearing as just a cluster of bluish-green button-like tops. These buttons are spineless, which is actually a pretty rare trait for a cactus. This makes them seem, vulnerable in the harsh desert environments of the Chihuahuan Desert, their native home. Yet this plant has survived for millennia. Its survival is not due to physical armor like sharp spines. Instead, its defense is a sophisticated form of chemical warfare. This strategy ensures that only the most determined or knowledgeable would dare to consume it, protecting it from casual grazing by animals that roam the desert landscape. The cactus produces a remarkable array of over 50 different alkaloids. These chemical compounds are the plant's invisible shield. The most famous of these is mescaline, a powerful psychedelic substance. While humans have sought out mescaline for its profound effects on consciousness, for most animals, it is a potent deterrent. Ingesting the cactus can cause intense nausea, vomiting, and disorientation. This immediate and unpleasant physical reaction teaches herbivores to avoid the plant in the future. The bitter taste alone is often enough to repel a curious animal, serving as the first line of a very effective chemical defense system that has been refined over millions of years of evolution. Beyond mescaline, the other alkaloids work in concert. They create a complex chemical cocktail that makes the plant unpalatable and potentially toxic to most creatures. This chemical arsenal is a testament to the evolutionary genius of the plant world. Lacking the ability to run or hide, peyote has evolved to make itself a highly undesirable meal. Its soft, fleshy appearance is deceptive. It is a fortress disguised as a simple button, its walls built not of stone but of potent molecules. This strategy has allowed it to thrive in a landscape where resources are scarce and every living thing is competing for survival. A quiet but potent master of its domain. This chemical defense is not just about repelling threats. It is also intricately linked to the plant's own life processes. The production of these alkaloids is metabolically expensive. The plant must expend significant energy to create them. This indicates their critical importance for its survival and reproduction. The buttons can be harvested without killing the entire plant, as the deep taproot remains underground. This allows the cactus to regenerate, but the process is incredibly slow. The very chemistry that protects the plant also makes it a target for humans, creating a unique paradox that defines its existence in the modern world. It is a plant that defends itself with the very substance that makes it sacred. For many indigenous peoples of North America, peyote is not a drug. It is a sacrament, a sacred medicine, and a direct conduit to the divine. The Native American Church, for example, integrates the ceremonial use of peyote as its central practice. For its members, the plant is a teacher and a healer. It is referred to as peyote, the medicine, or the holy sacrament. The consumption of the cactus within a carefully structured ceremony is a profound spiritual act. It is a way to commune with the Creator, to seek guidance, and to find healing for ailments of both the body and the spirit. The experience is not sought for recreation but for deep spiritual insight and community connection. The peyote ceremony is a highly structured and reverent event. It is typically held in a teepee and lasts throughout the night, from sunset to sunrise. The ceremony is led by a roadman, a spiritual leader, who guides the participants through songs, prayers, and contemplation. The sounds of a water drum and gourd rattle accompany the prayers, creating a rhythmic heartbeat for the ceremony. Participants sit in a circle around a sacred fire, a symbol of the Creator's presence. The peyote buttons are passed around and consumed, their bitter taste a humble reminder of the seriousness of the spiritual work being undertaken. This is a journey of introspection and communion, shared with a community of believers. The teachings received during a peyote ceremony are deeply personal, but also communal. The medicine is believed to reveal truths, help individuals confront their personal failings, and foster a sense of compassion and unity. It is a path of self-examination and moral reflection, known as the Peyote Road. This path emphasizes sobriety, integrity, family responsibility, and a deep respect for nature and all of creation. The plant is seen as a divine gift, a teacher that helps people walk in a good way, in right relationship with themselves, their community, and the world around them. The visions or insights gained are not escapes from reality, but tools to live a better life within it. The cultural significance of peyote extends back for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence, such as dried peyote buttons found in caves in Texas, dates its use back at least 5,700 years. This makes it one of the oldest continuously practiced religious traditions in the Americas. For groups like the Huichol or Wixárika of Mexico, the peyote hunt is an annual pilgrimage. It is a sacred journey to their mythical homeland, Wirakuta, where they collect the cactus. This pilgrimage is not just a harvest, it is a reenactment of their creation stories, a renewal of their covenant with the gods, and an essential act for maintaining the balance of the cosmos. This deep, ancient connection underscores that peyote is inseparable from the cultural identity of these peoples. The very lands where peyote has grown for millennia are now under threat. The Chihuahuan Desert, the only place in the world where Lophophora williamsii grows naturally, is facing immense ecological challenges. Habitat destruction is a primary concern. The expansion of agriculture, cattle ranching, and infrastructure development are fragmenting and destroying the delicate desert ecosystem. Root plowing, a practice used to clear land for grazing, is particularly devastating. It rips up the entire plant, including the deep taproot, preventing any possibility of regeneration. This loss of habitat shrinks the territory where the sacred cactus can survive, pushing it closer to the brink. Climate change adds another layer of stress to this fragile existence. Shifting weather patterns are leading to more extreme droughts and unpredictable rainfall in the region. Peyote is adapted to arid conditions, but even it has its limits. Prolonged periods of severe drought can inhibit its growth and ability to reproduce. As a very slow-growing cactus, taking up to 15 years to reach maturity and produce flowers, it is especially vulnerable to these long-term environmental shifts. The delicate balance that has allowed peyote to thrive for thousands of years is being disrupted at an alarming rate, threatening the future of the plant in its wild state. Overharvesting is perhaps the most direct threat to wild peyote populations. The demand for the cactus comes from multiple sources. The legally protected use by the Native American Church requires a significant supply. However, a growing interest in psychedelics from non-indigenous people has created a black market. Poachers, incentivized by high prices, often harvest the plants indiscriminately. They frequently take the entire root system, destroying the plant's ability to regenerate. This unsustainable harvesting, combined with the plant's extremely slow growth rate, means that peyote is being consumed far faster than it can replenish itself, leading to a serious decline in wild populations. This ecological crisis has profound cultural implications. For the indigenous communities whose spiritual lives are interwoven with peyote, the scarcity of the medicine is a direct threat to their traditions. The Huichol people in Mexico have seen their sacred pilgrimage sites in Wirakuta threatened by mining concessions and agribusiness. In the United States, members of the Native American Church find it increasingly difficult to obtain their sacrament. The ecological pressures on peyote are not just a conservation issue, they represent a crisis of cultural survival. The disappearance of the cactus from its native lands would mean the loss of a living library of spiritual knowledge and a tradition that has sustained people for countless generations. The legal status of peyote is, honestly, quite complex and often contradictory, creating a tangled web that pits religious freedom against drug control policies. In the United States, mescaline is classified as a Schedule I controlled substance. This means it's considered to have a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use, so the possession or consumption of peyote is therefore illegal for the general public. This places the cactus in the same legal category as substances like heroin and LSD. This blanket prohibition really reflects a perspective that focuses solely on the plant's psychoactive chemistry, ignoring its deep cultural and spiritual significance to indigenous peoples. However, there is a critical exception to this law. The American Indian Religious Freedom Act amendments of 1994 provide a federal exemption for the bona fide traditional ceremonial use of peyote by members of federally recognized Native American tribes. This legal protection recognizes that, for these communities, peyote is a sacrament, not just a recreational drug. The law allows members of the Native American Church to possess, transport, and consume peyote as part of their religious practices. This creates a unique legal dualism. The same plant is both an illicit substance and a legally protected sacrament, depending entirely on the identity and intent of the person possessing it. This legal framework is not without its controversies and ethical dilemmas. The requirement of membership in a federally recognized tribe has been challenged by some who feel it excludes other indigenous groups or individuals with sincere spiritual beliefs. Furthermore, the legal demand for peyote from the Native American Church, estimated to be several million buttons per year, contributes to the harvesting pressure on the wild populations. Licensed distributors, known as peyoteros, are permitted to harvest and sell the cactus to church members, but the system is strained as the plant becomes scarcer. This creates a difficult ethical situation where a legally protected religious practice may be contributing to the ecological decline of its own sacrament. The debate also extends to the question of decriminalization for all. Some argue that if peyote is safe enough for religious use, it should be decriminalized for responsible adult use, similar to movements involving psilocybin mushrooms and cannabis. Proponents of this view often point to the potential therapeutic benefits of mescaline. However, this position is met with strong opposition from many indigenous leaders. They argue that widespread decriminalization would commodify their sacred medicine, increase poaching, and accelerate the cactus's extinction. It would sever the plant from its cultural context and spiritual purpose, turning a sacrament into just another consumer product. They contend that the plant's future should be decided by the indigenous communities who have been its stewards for millennia. Mescaline, the primary psychoactive alkaloid in peyote, has long intrigued Western science. It was the first psychedelic compound to be isolated from a plant, identified by German chemist Arthur Hefter in 1897. Its profound effects on the human mind were famously documented by Aldous Huxley in his 1954 book, The Doors of Perception. Today, as the so-called psychedelic renaissance gains momentum, researchers are revisiting mescaline and its potential therapeutic applications. Early studies and anecdotal reports suggest it may hold promise for treating a range of mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and addiction. The potential therapeutic mechanism of mescaline is thought to be similar to that of other classic psychedelics like psilocybin and LSD. It primarily acts on the brain's serotonin 2A receptors. This interaction can lead to profound shifts in perception, thought, and emotion. It can help individuals break free from rigid, negative patterns of thinking and feeling that are characteristic of conditions like depression and addiction. By inducing a state of heightened introspection and emotional release, mescaline may allow individuals to process trauma and gain new perspectives on their lives and their place in the world, fostering a sense of interconnectedness and meaning that can be deeply healing. However, the investigation of mescaline's therapeutic potential is fraught with serious ecological and cultural ramifications. Unlike psilocybin, which can be easily cultivated from mushrooms or synthesized, the primary natural source of mescaline is the slow-growing and endangered peyote cactus. Any large-scale medical demand for natural mescaline would place an unbearable strain on already dwindling wild peyote populations. This would directly harm the ecosystems where it grows, and more importantly, threaten the supply of the sacred medicine for the Native American Church and other indigenous groups who depend on it for their spiritual survival. The pursuit of healing for one group cannot come at the cost of another's cultural existence. This dilemma highlights the critical need for a responsible and ethical approach. The solution may lie in synthetic mescaline. By producing the compound in a laboratory, researchers can study its effects and develop potential therapies without harvesting a single peyote button. This would respect the sanctity of the cactus and ensure that the wild populations are preserved for the indigenous communities who are its rightful stewards. Such an approach acknowledges that the peyote plant itself is sacred and culturally significant beyond its chemical composition. It separates the scientific exploration of a molecule from the commodification of a living, sacred entity, offering a path where modern medicine can advance without perpetuating ecological and cultural harm. The story of peyote is a story of resilience, spirituality, and the profound interconnectedness of all living things. As we stand at a crossroads, the future of this sacred cactus depends on our ability to act with wisdom, respect, and foresight. The path forward must be one that prioritizes conservation. This involves protecting and restoring peyote's natural habitat in the Chihuahuan Desert. It requires combating illegal poaching and promoting sustainable land management practices that allow the desert ecosystem to heal. Conservation efforts must be undertaken in close partnership with local communities and landowners, creating a shared sense of stewardship for this unique botanical treasure. At the heart of this effort must be a deep and unwavering respect for indigenous practices and sovereignty. For millennia, indigenous peoples have been the guardians of peyote. Their traditional knowledge holds the key to the plant's sustainable use and preservation. Any and all conservation strategies and legal frameworks must be developed with indigenous leaders at the forefront of the conversation. Their voices, their spiritual needs, and their right to self-determination must be central to every decision made about the plant. The principle of nothing about us, without us, is paramount. The goal is not just to save a plant, but to honor and protect the ancient cultural traditions that are inextricably linked to it. The growing interest in the therapeutic potential of mescaline offers both promise and peril. The ethical path for science is to focus on synthetic mescaline, leaving the cactus itself to its ceremonial purpose. This approach allows for medical advancement without contributing to the ecological crisis or commodifying a sacred sacrament. It respects the view held by many in the Native American church that the spirit and healing power of their ceremony comes from the whole plant, consumed in a sacred context, not just an isolated chemical. This distinction between the molecule and the medicine is crucial for navigating the complex terrain where science and spirituality meet. Ultimately, the fate of peyote is a reflection of our own consciousness. It asks us to look beyond our immediate desires and consider the long-term consequences of our actions. It challenges us to build a world where modern needs do not trample ancient wisdom, where scientific progress coexists with spiritual reverence, and where the rights of nature and indigenous peoples are held as sacred. By cultivating peyote in protected gardens for ceremonial use, preserving its wild habitat, and respecting its spiritual significance, we can ensure that this teacher plant continues to offer its lessons of healing, connection, and respect for generations to come. The peyote road is a path of responsibility, and it is a path we must choose to walk together.